Okay, well, thank you very much. It's good to be back, isn't it, Jill?
No, you've over the summer you've grown a thing on your face.
Well, I thought somebody said I've got my head upside down. I haven't quite decided yet, so. But look at the panel we've got today. Look at these guests we've got. We've got Steve White.
Hello.
And Richard Jupp.
Hello.
Who have both driven down. Well, no, you haven't driven down today.
Well, I've come on the tube.
You came on the tube.
I came on the tube today.
Good old,
yeah. London Underground.
Yeah.
Got me here in plenty of time.
And you drove down the motorway.
Drove down the motorway up at 5:30.
Oh.
In excitement and anticipation for this very moment.
Oh well, thank you very much for coming back. So, I want to start off, both of you gentlemen, not that you're not young now, but you started very young in successful bands, both of you. I think, Steve, you were 17.
17, yeah.
When you first started with Style Council. Yeah. What was the advantages and disadvantages of being in bands and having that kind of success very early on?
I was working from when I was 14, actually making money from as a 14-year-old, because rules and regulations were not so adhered to, I just got into, via the Musicians Union, I got asked to come and play after auditioning for the union. Somebody came up and said, "What are you doing next Saturday?" And I started playing gigs, and it was an amazing experience to be playing every Saturday night in some conservative club, Labour club, Liberal club, playing just pop songs, and it was a great grounding, and I got paid, and then it stood me in fantastic stead for when I started to work with the Style Council, because I knew how to play songs. I knew how to verse, chorus, middle eight, guitar solo, another verse, chorus, outro, watch for the ending. It really was that simple. These are the kind of things that I tell my students all the time, and it's quite amazing. Sometimes they don't really know, how song structure works. That was what was so great about it. I was very ambitious. I really wanted to be in a band. I grabbed every opportunity. I auditioned for loads and loads of bands via the NME and Melody Maker.
Wow, these are papers that they used to be around. They're not around anymore.
The ads at the back, and
I
got to meet Latin Quarter, and I turned up, and it was Mick Kahn from Japan, who's no longer with us, was there, and I wasn't right for him, but he was really encouraging, and eventually that's how I kind of ended up on the radar of the Style Council and got the job. And when I started working with them, I just thought, I'm just going to play the songs and shut up, and that was it.
So it never changes.
No, it never
play the song and shut up.
That was what I did. Play the songs and shut up.
I mean, yours was slightly different because obviously Paul Weller had already come out of the Jam at this stage, and so it was a household name. Obviously, with Elbow, you all started together, didn't you?
Yeah, it was I think it was about 25 years, I think. We were together. I've known Pete the bass player, since I was 6 months old. So we were, first band, first anything to do with music. It was all sort of the five of us, really. Obviously, Craig and Mark are brothers, so they've known each other probably 6 months longer than me and Pete. But it was a phenomenal opportunity to come at it from a slightly different way than Steve had, in that just growing together and formulating plans and plots, and hitting the ground running pretty much every day, and learning new things, learning off other people, other musicians, and making it up as we went along. It was, and we've been very fortuitous to have a really good, long, successful career out of it.
Yeah. Yeah, because Steve, you've obviously your brother was Alan's older than you, is he?
No, Alan's younger.
Alan's younger.
He just looks older than
me.
me.
Of course, that's what I. There you go. Yeah. I mean, so it's quite a musical family.
It was, but there was no kind of real kind of heritage musically. I mean, my dad was a builder, my mum was a nurse, but I think
it's the same as my family, yeah.
Yeah, when I got into drumming, I just remember it was like an explosion in my head when I first saw a boys' brigade band, and I just thought, that's what I want to do, and whether I was good at it didn't matter. I wanted to do that, and they were just really encouraging, and my school that I went to was really encouraging. They used to let me I was rubbish at football, even though I liked football, I was rubbish at it. So they would just say, look, we don't really need you in the team. Go and play the drums. Yeah, and I used to go and just play music. And I remember the sports teachers saying, we will come and check one day. And if you're not in that drum room, you know you're going to be in trouble. So I just used to grab opportunities and think, how am I going to build on this? And I used to go along and hang out at rehearsals for things like the London Youth Jazz Orchestra, where Gary O'Toole was one of my earliest influences, a wonderful drummer and lovely person. And he was so kind to me. And then when I got, doing drum clinics really early on, the first drum clinic was with Simon Phillips.
Wow.
And he was lovely. And we jammed, and Robbie France was on, who's no longer with us.
Yeah.
And it was just all of these opportunities, meeting people like Peter Erskine and Vinnie Colaiuta as 17, 18 years of age. I just used to ask questions, just wanted to know, what are you doing? What's that? And I just loved it. And I still do. Yeah. Still love it.
I mean, I had a very similar upbringing with the workingmen's clubs, and did you do any of that side of things, or was it just the guys got together and?
Well, initially, Mark, we knew him as a guitarist in secondary school, and he was this sort of rocker dude, sort of. He'd get on his sort of Ibanez, and rock out, and I don't know. It was like this sort of. Symbiotic thing, and he sort of knew I tentatively wanted to be a drummer. I don't know where it came from. I'd always wanted to be a drummer. I think just the physicality and as Steve's just mentioned, it looks great, So sitting there at home and just teaching myself how to play along to, what was I playing at the time? It was like heavy metal and Phil Rudd, DC. That was my sort of gateway, that I could think, right, well, that arm goes there, just without a kit. It was just sat in my bedroom, listening over and over and over and over and over to DC. And then I knew that Mark was into DC. Then we sort of like checked each other out. And then he was like, do you play drums? I was like, yeah, do you play guitar? And it was, and then Pete sort of said, right, well, I want to play bass. And we just sort of gravitated towards each other. Yeah. And just that sort of, seeing each other develop and practice and what you could bring to the next practice, which was always at school, always at lunchtime. And we were just always hanging around in the studio because that's where the kit was, And then I eventually started to paper rounds and, beg stealing and borrowing. And then, my first kit was an old Olympic kick drum held up by 2 fire extinguishers. I stole a Boss head and clamp from the chemistry lab at school. Sorry. And then that was my cymbal stand. So it was like a cracked cymbal here and a snare drum with just the batter head. Yeah. Just making sounds, making it up. And when I had the hi-hats, snare, kick, I could do a 4/4 beat, just like Phil Rudd, and that was just again that explosion in your head, And then you put a guitar to it, bass, and it's like this thing starts to, you're creating, and done it ever since.
Cool. Well, it sounds like we all had a very similar upbringing, except I used to bunk off school to go and do my practice. So
right,
I do apologise about it. Sorry, teachers.
Social services, come on.
They didn't have them back then.
No.
What are you on about?
Clip round the ear.
Social services, yeah. Clip round the ear. Didn't have that. It was a ruler.
Yeah.
So we're just going to quickly check out a video for Steve, aren't we?
Oh yeah, cool.
So where's this one from? Or is this just a collation?
I think this is a
compilation.
Compilation.
Let's have a look. Let's have a look and see what we got.
Music of Live Aid continues from London with the Style Council.
You're the best king ever. at all. Thank you.
Yeah, well, excellent.
Amazing.
Very good.
That's thank you to my good friend and drummer Steve Sedelnik, who put that together for me for an event we did for Zildjian. It was part of a little thing that we did, some montage and playing with some screens, and it's just lovely. It was very kind of him to do that.
Very talented then, not only because he was with you obviously back in the day.
Yeah, he was at, well, I think myself and Steve, I mean, reading pop quizzes and things, myself and Steve are one of a very small group of musicians that did both Live 8 and Live Aid. Because Steve played with the Style Council on the original concert and obviously with Madonna.
Yeah.
And then I think the other two people probably will be standing to be corrected by the wonderful world of the internet, were Roger Daltrey and Pete Townsend, who did the original. And so it's a small group of very...
because obviously Steve was percussion back in then, and then he was kit with Madonna, wasn't he?
It was kit with Madonna,
many years,
yeah. We I think we did one of the first things where we actually got a physical endorsement from a sportswear company in music, because when we knew, we're very entrepreneurial as young men, and we knew that we were going to be doing this concert at Wembley and it was going to be big, and we wrote a physical letter to Nike and said, we're doing this massive concert, would you like to send us some gear? And basically at our rehearsal rooms in Nomi's studios, 2 massive sack cloth bags turned up full of trainers and vests.
Brilliant.
Wow.
So when you look at that old footage of Live Aid, me and Steve were one of the first to get the endorsement thing going for clothes.
Well, I must just say before you ask your question, Jill, that you say back in those days you were an entrepreneur. I don't think you've changed much better than that now. You've still got that one, guys. Sorry, Jill.
No, you're right. That's all right. So with Live Aid then, like, that's quite a big, significant experience that not many people get to have the chance to do. So, and I'd ask both of you, like, what is the most memorable experience or gig that you've actually done?
There was something in London a few years back.
Just this tiny thing.
Just this little thing. The closing ceremony of the Olympics, and we were honoured to play first when all the athletes came out, parading out on the ceremony. So it was quite a bizarre thing. I think I haven't yet sort of processed the whole thing. It was just sort of 80,000 people and then a few billion watching at home. So it was and very weird being sort of backstage with all these sort of very famous people.
Did you get your £1?
No.
Ah, you didn't get your £1. That was the deal.
Yeah, I thought that was the deal.
I didn't get my quid.
The deal was that the star talent, as you were called,
Right. Okay.
would get a £1. They had to get paid.
Yeah.
So you got a £1. And Nick Mason informed me afterwards that they didn't even put it in a plaque or anything. They just literally come out with a money bag and gave everyone a £1. So someone has got your
Somebody's got
£1.
my quid.
You were caught out for that one. Yeah, you had to be paid. And you were given £1 apparently.
Right.
So you didn't get it. So good.
Interesting.
That is. I've still got my backstage pass from Live Aid, the original
Have you?
one. Yeah, on a little chain. I've still got that.
Would that been your highlight?
No, I don't think so. It was an amazing concert, and Live 8 was just amazing to do. But there's so many concerts over the years that I've done, thousands of shows, and it's not always the big sort of iconic ones that, they're quite hard sometimes, because you're concentrating and you're thinking about, has everybody got in on the guest list and, all that kind of stuff. And then you might go and be on a bus all day for 11 hours and feeling like rubbish and maybe had a bit too much wine the night before and get on stage and it's just electric. It comes from somewhere, those moments. So you know, I've been very lucky to have done so many different kinds of concerts. But I mean, from you know, doing Live 8, and Live 8 was amazing, and I actually got on stage at the Live Earth gig. I was actually on call to be Greg Bissonette in Spinal Tap, so I actually got to play with Spinal Tap.
Okay.
And then Greg actually got to come, and so I played with Spinal Tap.
Thanks, Greg.
Yeah. So Greg got there, and he invited me on stage to come and play floor tom. So I played floor tom, and you know, so I was around for that as well, and that was incredible. But I mean, I did an amazing concert with the late John Lord in Sao Paulo, which was going to Brazil, and obviously Brazil's very much in the news at the moment. Playing in Sao Paulo, it was a free concert on a May Day bank holiday, doing the concerto for group and orchestra, and it was like 50,000 crazy Brazilians on a weekend off in a classical concert. It was just, the atmosphere was just incredible, and that was probably one of the most amazing highlights of my, you know, that fusion of John, who's an amazing person, I loved him, and the orchestra, the Sao Paulo Philharmonic, incredible 8 percussion section, getting to play a drum solo, Guy Pratt on bass, Chester Kamen on guitar, fantastic band. That was one that stands in the memory.
It's great YouTube footage of that.
Yeah, that was taken on Steve Balsamo's phone.
No way.
Yeah, Steve Balsamo, the singer, took it on his phone.
What is the YouTube link so people can look at it then? Can you
it's just, I think it's like Whitey in Brazil.
Oh,
just
really?
put that in, that's it.
Brilliant.
It's just a bit of a drum solo.
I mean, you both came from very influential musical settings, you know, with Weller, with Albo. Do you still see that happening? Where do you think the next generation of music is going to come from, or where do you see it at the moment?
I think a lot of people are slightly disillusioned with the industry as a whole. I think it will come full circle sooner than I think anyway, where people are getting back to basics, back to finding other people of the same ilk, and coming together and just practicing, just rehearsing, just playing together, not for any other reason bar just the sheer beauty of being with like-minded people, you know. And it is hard because I think a lot of people expect too much from the industry. I think there's a lot to be said for being your own sort of quality control, really. There's so many more opportunities as just YouTube. I mean, I'm 42, so there must be more sort of platforms out there than YouTube. But you know, to get your sound across, but just to share it, not for any other material gain. Yeah. I know that might seem a bit naive, but I think, you know, the more I've got into teaching and the more I'm getting into sort of session work, you know, it's brought more of an expansive view for me of playing with different people. You know, I've been with Elbow for 25 years, and it was, you know, fantastic being with the same kind of people, but I think playing with a lot of different people is a good way of giving yourself more experience with music as opposed to your chosen instrument. Right. You know, again, working with different musicians now, 3 or 4 projects that I've got on the go, it's great because I'm getting into, you know, vocal work and melody, which is something I've never been confident enough, because, you know, the guys in the band were so exceptional at it. Yep. You know, and we were each other's quality control as well. But I think if, you know, the more you sort of reach out to other musicians and get involved with other musicians, then, you know, it can only be a good thing.
What do you think, Steve?
I don't think you should never pick an instrument up with the desire to make money. You pick it up because you love it. Yeah. And for me, I came at the tail end of what was an incredibly affluent and successful time for the British music industry. There was lots of money knocking around, and it's cyclical. So every generation of young musician has to face their own set of challenges, and you know what you have to remember is the vast, overwhelming majority of people that ever pick up an instrument, that may be brilliant, and Indian musicians, Chinese musicians, Japanese, African musicians don't make money.
No.
You know, the concept of professional musician is something very much that's a Western,
Yeah.
you know. So we've become very kind of to take that for granted, that you make money as a musician. And the thing is if you're preoccupied with making money as a musician, you're not going to make great music. No. It's a byproduct, and of course you have to manage your career and be selective and be businesslike about it. But I always think that, you know, you approach music and being in the music business with positivity, and you know, it is a tough industry. It's always been a tough industry. Now, young musicians will still find their way to make great music because the platforms are there. Yeah, all right, we know that some of these digital places, they don't pay very good royalties and things like that, but things will change. It will all balance itself out. And I have tremendous faith in young musicians to find new ways to get their music out there, maybe things that I don't even think about because I've been doing it for so long.
Yeah.
But it's like, you know, it's always been difficult, it always will be, but there's still ways to come out and play great music.
Yeah, good, excellent. Okay.
That's right, so my talking point now.
Your talking point,
It
Jill.
is.
What you got?
What have I got
I always
for this?
worry about this.
You shouldn't worry, I have good talking points. So as we touched on at the start of the show, you both obviously started out touring that, but you've both made a natural transition into teaching and education, and I wanted to talk about that progression to that and why you naturally gravitated towards wanting to do more education.
It's something I've been doing teaching since I was very young, since I was like in my 20s and doing drum clinics, and I've always really enjoyed that camaraderie of being around drummers. I think that is something that we've got in common with our African brothers and sisters. We like, you know, drummers are really part of something special, and I've kind of really loved that over the years, and that's, people have asked me, you know, how'd you do that, how'd you do that, and that's progressed into lessons. And I've formulated it much more seriously in the last 10 years, culminating in getting a position at Trinity and teaching for Goldsmiths College, and that requires much more concentration and focus, and I absolutely love it. And for me, you know, after doing what I've done for so many years, I get so much satisfaction seeing my students, like getting a link from one of my students, Harry, saying I'm at Glastonbury and I'm on the BBC, and I'm like, oh great, you know. And one of my students from Trinity, Becky, she's in a production that's going into the West End, and I really feel proud of that.
Yeah.
So for me, that was like a natural progression, not only as a musician but also as a person. You know, I've got 4 children. I love that kind of paternal thing of watching young people grow, and I get really I get a lot of satisfaction from it. So I probably wouldn't have got some of the drumming teaching jobs that I've got now 10 years ago, because it was much more about academia, and I don't have any academic qualifications. I just was on the road. But now, luckily, education, especially in this country, has recognised experience, and the fact that I have toured for 30 years and made lots of records that have become very, very popular and were great records. And I'm still doing it, and that has been recognised now as being important. So that's really good that the education system is reflecting that, and I absolutely I love doing all the stuff that I do with education.
I'm going to be a bit sort of do the starstruck thing now, because it was Steve who has been a huge influence on me and getting into teaching, because we've known each other for a few years now, and every time we get together, I am really inspired. I'll hold my hands up and just say really inspired by your playing and the way you communicate the excitement of playing drums, and it's given me the confidence, because I've been self-taught, to have a voice and be able to communicate ideas, you know, ways to play to students, you know. And it's great. I've got a little setup at home, and hopefully getting this position at ACM in January. And as you've just said, you know, experience is being recognised.
Yep.
And as well, that goes into the whole sort of music therapy, which I'm very interested in, working with, you know, kids on the autistic spectrum, and also working with that sort of music therapy. The way drums are a great foundation instrument I think you mentioned that on your last clinic in Manchester when I came to see you. And it being a grounding instrument, you know. There's coordination, there's exercise, there's the mental aspect to it, you know, using all your senses at the same time. There's a mindful approach that you can employ with drumming. You know, working with groove, working with vibrations, tones, sounds. It's unquantifiable where the whole education thing can go, really. And I think if, you know, drummers are so enthusiastic, especially when, you know, we get together, it is, you enthuse that in other people.
Yeah.
And it's immediate, you know, like playing live. You know, it's an immediate reciprocal thing that you see people reacting to what you're doing.
Yeah, they're moving because of you.
Exactly.
Not because of the singer.
Again, you're the foundation instrument, you're the beat, you're the tempo, you know. And it's an incredible thing. And once you are able to quantify that and communicate that to a student and get them to enthuse about it, you know. Because I'm trying to just do it in less of a formal way, but playing to the strengths of the student, doing a bit more of the physiology of it, the way you sat, the way, you know, incorporating elements of yoga, stretching, before and after shows or before and after drumming, you know, to sort of displace any injuries or you know, repetitive strains or anything like that. So again, it's, you know, at the moment there's a lot of fingers in a lot of pies. I'm just trying to nail it down, and every time you know, we hook up and the more that we talk, you know, it seems to be getting into a channel where, you know, it's sort of more recognised.
I think that with the whole scene, the mass drumming movements that are going on now, the samba schools,
Brilliant.
You know, it just shows that
djembe groups, things like that, therapy. You know, you can see it. And I mean, I've taught kids with special needs and you know, kids with like hearing impairments, where you get them to come up, just put their hand on a drum.
Yeah, and they feel it.
It's brilliant. It's wonderful. And that's, you know, we well, not to get sort of too hippy dippy about it, but drums, you know, we the very being that we are is sustained by a rhythm, heartbeat. You know, so it just makes complete natural sense that probably one of the most giving instruments is the drums. It's as simple as that. And you know, I love the whole idea now that you see in samba schools and people just getting together and just making a racket. It's great. It doesn't got to be ego, and just making a bit of a racket.
Fun.
It's fun.
What we had out of it. I mean, I think I said to you earlier, I've got a Down syndrome student I've been teaching for 10 years now, and I remember saying to his dad after a couple of years of teaching him, you know, I just managed to get him to start coordinating his feet. You know, the hi-hat, he couldn't use his left foot. And I said to his dad, he was, when Kenji was about 18, I said, are you noticing a difference? And he said, yeah, he's now the captain of his football team, because before he used to run up to a football, stop, kick the ball like a kid would. Now he's got that eye and hand foot coordination that he can run up, move, kick the ball at the same time. Like I said to you, the downside of teaching Kenji is he's a huge Westlife fan, and all I have to listen to, his treat at the end of every lesson is he's allowed to play along to one of his favourite songs.
Yin and yang.
But anyway, you know, okay, so we've come to our show and tell. Okay, boys, you ready?
I love show and tell.
Do you?
Yeah.
I do. You never know what they're going to bring.
Well,
We've had people bring just blocks of wood, and you're like, what's that about?
Okay, so let's start with you, Richard. What have you got for us? Your show and tell today.
I've got this, which is
A shark.
a shark. No. It's just one of the fins off my surfboard, because I love surfing and going out with my son Dylan to wherever there's surf. Which at the moment we're just doing overnighters down to Cornwall and then up to Croyd, Putsborough.
Yeah.
You know, beautiful parts of the country as well. North Wales as well, sort of Hell's Mouth around there, and it's just a chance to sort of get away.
Is it just the boys? You leave the wife at home, do you?
Sarah's, it's a bit boring if it's a bit chilly, you know. So yeah, her and our dog George kind of just tend to stay at home.
Yeah, the camper van.
It's the camper van.
Yeah.
It is the camper
Brilliant.
van thing. So yeah, so it's great. It's sort of twins with all the sort of, well, I used to be a goalkeeper and then drummer and then surfing, which is kind of solitary, meditative, kind of the same kind of thing.
So you're doing kite surfing as well, or you're sticking?
No, just surfing.
Okay.
Surfing.
So now's the time of year now. It's beginning to get quite good for you now, isn't it?
It is. We've had a fairly consistent summer.
Yeah.
It's been quite good. So yeah, we're off to Croydon next weekend just to catch the last bit before it gets a bit.
Which is a lovely part
chilly.
of the world. Have you been there yet?
Where?
Croydon.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just checking. These Australians are travelling around the world. I'm just making sure she knows all the UK
I
places.
have a car.
Yeah,
That's my kind of hobby.
Cool.
Yeah.
Steve.
All right, I've got something that I'm very proud of. This is my medal that I got from my charity that I work with. I don't like the word charity. It's not my kind of. I think charity. I think giving love, giving support, you know, is really what we should all just do. You know.
Yeah.
So I try to kind of help out where I can with a few different bits and pieces. But this I'm particularly proud of, because it commemorates 10 years of Checkham Lads, which is the testicular cancer awareness site. It's not really a charity. All it is basically information disseminated via the internet from people that have experienced and, in the vast majority, been cured of testicular cancer. It came about through a gentleman called Philly Morris 10 years ago, well, longer than that, 12 years ago. And he came to a Paul Weller concert, and he wasn't in a great way. He was on chemotherapy or just finished chemotherapy. And he was quite angry about things that he'd learnt about the course of action of when you get diagnosed, and just didn't feel that there was very much information. So I kind of said to him, if I can help you channel that, you know, anger, what would you do? And he said, I want to start a website. So basically, long story, I sold some bits and pieces, and we raised the money to start a website. And that website has just hit exactly where it needs to. It provides information because it's a perfect storm for young men, and, you know, because obviously it affects young men. So, you know, who are just embarrassed when something goes wrong in that area. Yeah. They don't want to talk about it. It's, you know, it doesn't just affect young men, but it can be particularly nasty if you're a younger person and it's left, basically. So we just provided some information, and Philly Morris and Mick Riley and a lot of other guys that got involved, and it's had like 4 million hits now, and it's recognised worldwide as one of the top resources for anybody, not just the guys that with TC, but their families. We get wives, we get partners coming in, and we just kind of came up with this very, very simple idea. And I'm extremely proud of my involvement with it. I feel very, very proud that we've made a very positive contribution to getting young men the treatment and the information and the support that they need at a very dark time. So that's my medal for 10 years.
Well done. Well done. Yeah, you should be proud because it is important. And like you say, these charities are awareness more than. So well done. Congratulations on that.
Now it's time for Mr. Bobblehead Man.
Is it?
Yeah. Or Brent's Hang as it known.
Okay.
So Brent, what have you got for us today?
Hey Mike and Jill, it's great to be here again. As you guys know, I do hardware makeovers for drummers. They send me videos and pictures of their setup, and I get to remake them in my own way using Gibraltar hardware, but I keep everything the same. So the drummer that I'm doing today is Alex Borner. So let's first have a look at Alex's setup. He's got an 8-piece double bass kit, which is composed of 2 rack toms, 2 floor toms, 2 bass drums, and 2 snares. He's pretty much got 2 of everything set up here. Now, as far as cymbals, on his hi-hat side, he's got a China, a crash, and a set of hi-hats. Now, right over his toms, he's got a bell, and he's got a splash. Now, on his right-hand side, he's got a ride cymbal that hovers right over his bass drum, right next to his rack tom. He's got a crash, another China, a set of X hats, and then another crash. There's a lot of stands in this setup. We've got 6 cymbals and 2 hi-hats that all have their own stands. The drums pretty much have all their own stands. So there's a lot of feet competing on the floor. Now it is true that if you have a small setup, like 2 or 3 cymbals and a couple toms, a snare, bass drum, that it's much faster to use cymbal stands. But once you expand your kit to adding many more cymbals and more drums, a rack is way more efficient. It's going to be a lot easier for you to set up and tear down and get everything placed correctly. So this is my take on Alex's setup. This is what I would do if I was going to play his setup identically. Now you guys know me and you know Gibraltar. We're all about making things easy and making things clean. So I decided to throw everything up on a rack, but it's a little different than a normal double bass rack. So this setup can be broken down into 3 basic components. We have our stealth rack mounting the 2 rack toms and the snare in the front, the GS-VMS, and the 2 side racks are actually just the GCS-300C. This is a front curved rack that's designed to go over a bass drum. I'm just using it as a side rack to be a little different. Starting over our left side, we have our secondary snare here. I'm using the 9606 NL, which is a no-leg ultra-adjust snare stand that I have mounted to the back leg of the rack. Now the reason I chose to use this instead of just using a regular snare basket is that I needed to be able to expand the length and the depth that the snare was to the rack. This has a telescoping feature on it, so if you were playing it traditionally standing up, you could adjust the height. With this way, I can adjust the depth of it and how close I bring the snare to me. My China and my crash, I have mounted directly to the rack using the SC SBBT. It's a short boom arm with a brake tilter. The China is mounted directly to the crossbar, and the crash is mounted inside the front leg. Just like Alex, I'm using the 9707 NLDP. It's a no-leg hi-hat stand that I use to mount directly to my bass drum. Now, I attached it to the bass drum using the SC RP171, which is a clamp that attaches to the hoop with a Z-rod and another clamp to attach to the base of the hi-hat stand. So front and center here for our 2 rack toms, snare, bell, and cymbal, we have the stealth rack that's supporting everything. Now this is the GS-VMS. This is the version that is just bare bones. There's no tom mount or there's no snare basket that comes with it. This leaves you to be able to use whatever you want. I used a double tom mount, which is the SC DP. It allowed me to mount 2 toms directly to the front part of the stealth. I wanted to keep the entire front as clean as possible, so I mounted the splash directly to the excess tom arm that I had left over from the 12-inch tom. Now I really like how Alex mounted his bell to the splash cymbal arm using the SC DCT BT. It's a great way to save space and you mount more cymbals. On the right side, I have all the cymbals mounted to the rack. The ride cymbal is attached to the front leg because I needed it to be at a specific height. I didn't want to have to lower the crossbar just so I can get the ride cymbal on. Then that would have affected all of my other cymbals. The front right crash is mounted directly out of the front leg. The China is mounted to the crossbar. Now my X hats are mounted to the crossbar using the SC4425XH-MB. Now my last crash on the right side is mounted to the crossbar as well. Now this opens it up so I can add a number of other cymbals or more drums or even more percussion accessories if I need to, just the same way as I can on my hi-hat side.
Well, thank you.
Well done, Brent.
Yeah, that was really good. So thank you, Brent. Now we've got the most stressful part of the show, which is 1 minute with.
Is it stressful for you to get the questions out quickly?
Yes, because I always make mistakes.
Oh, God.
See, these two are so cool.
I know. I'm sure they were perfectly fine. They'll be perfectly fine. So that means we've got to go to another part of the room, or another room entirely, so that neither hear what the questions are. And obviously have a minute to answer as many questions as they can, and will be added to our leaderboard.
You've got to beat the Americans, don't forget.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
No pressure,
Right.
okay?
Yes.
You've got to beat Craig Blundell.
Oh, right,
Okay,
that's
there you go.
impossible.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Okay, let's see.
All right, first minute with Richard. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. First question is your favourite record performance that you've played on?
Probably, Grounds for Divorce.
The drummer that you first saw that made you want to start?
Phil Rudd.
Name one hobby you have.
Surfing.
The favourite live venue you've played in?
Brixton Academy.
First record you bought?
Oh my God. It was probably Depeche Mode.
Your favourite all-time movie?
With Nail and I.
Flight or tour bus?
Flight.
The last record you bought?
DJ Shadow.
Your favourite holiday vacation?
Watergate Bay.
What are you currently practicing in one word?
The drums. That's 2 words.
If you were not a musician, what would you do?
Drum tech.
Coated or clear tom heads?
Clear.
What do you do to keep fit?
Yoga.
What's important to you as an artist?
Family.
And that's your 1 minute.
No way.
Yeah, that's it.
Is that it?
That's it.
Have I won?
I don't know. Okay, next minute with Steve. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
You're more confident than Richard, I'm going to let you know.
I'm ready.
Okay. Buddy or Ringo?
Buddy,
How old were you when you started?
9.
Favourite type of food?
Japanese,
Do you play another instrument?
no.
Favourite all-time album?
Big swing face.
What's your life ethos in one word?
Enjoy.
A new drummer you've just gotten into?
Mikey Sorbello.
What's important to you as an artist?
Integrity.
What are you currently listening to?
21 Pilots.
Your favourite holiday vacation?
Spain.
Favourite book?
Tao of Jeet Kune Do, Bruce Lee.
Wow. Flight or tour bus?
Flight.
An artist, dead or alive, who would you like to have worked with?
Caravaggio.
Your favourite all-time drum item?
1935 Radio King snare drum.
Your last record you bought?
The Beatles at Hollywood Bowl.
The first record you ever bought?
Let There Be Drums, Sandy Nelson.
Your favourite live venue you've played in?
Albert Hall.
What other hobbies do you have apart from drums?
Walking.
The drummer that made you want to start?
Buddy Rich.
And that's your 1 minute with. Thank you very much, Steve.
I think he went to win that one.
I nearly was running out of questions there.
Okay, well done, boys. Very good. Okay, use it or lose it. This is the section where I show you something, and you tell me whether it's something you would use or lose. So, Jill, would you like to give us a little bit of information about this pure
Yes.
calf head?
So this
Comes
is
in all sizes.
So it is a real calf head from Litic. It's a white version of the thick weight. The heads are available in either a thick or thin weight and are in a white and transparent finishes. So the transparent heads are lighter, more clear and more resonant than the white head, and they can be used for resonant heads or orchestral use. And the white heads produce a more dry and warmer tone and are better for the batter heads, I think is the best way to describe it.
Well, I use one on a Stanton Moore Von Dunnett titanium snare drum, and wow. Yeah. So, I mean, is it something you would use, do you think, guys? Are you into your vintage sounds? Well, I don't know. I need to ask you, Steve.
Yeah, I mean, I do. I'm a snareaholic. I put my hand up. You know, I was using.
Kids, you do realise that's the kids' pension. That's your pension fund of the
Yeah.
kids' inheritance.
It is, but they get used as well. I mean, I was using. I mean, I love my Yamaha drums, but I also make no bones. I love my vintage equipment. And just last weekend, I was recording at Mono Valley with Matt Dayton, and I used a 1935 Radio King, which is one of my favourite drums. Beautiful, beautiful piece of kit. And that kind of thing would be absolutely perfect, because that's what that drum would have had on it, a calfskin head. I've got a particularly lovely Leedy, which is one of my favourites of the vintage drums.
How old is that one?
That's 1937.
Okay.
And you can see the date through the air hole. And it's got gut snares on it as well.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it sounds completely dry, like almost like a kind of a parade drum. That would work amazingly.
Yeah.
I'll get all excited talking about it.
They're a little bit pricey. I think they're coming in at about £45 or $60, but they are handmade.
Yeah.
And I think you get what you paid for.
For studio, that would be perfect. I wouldn't take it out with a family silver gig, because it would probably last.
Well, actually, they're quite good.
Yeah.
I have to say that I have. I've sort of road tested it as well. I date my drum heads and see how long it lasts, and they're pretty good. But it is a particular sound. I mean, what do you think, Rich?
I just think, but being a drummer, yeah, it's just something to try. It's something else. It's something different, which is really exciting.
Isn't it amazing that even when the same as you, Steve, I've been fortunate to meet some of the Hal Blaine and guys like that, and you still sit down a sofa or a dinner table and still get excited about talking about drums, which is what we said before, you know, how much it's so...
I think that's what differentiates drummers from
There's other Herberts in the band.
The other,
the other Herberts in the band.
It's just, you know, people glaze over, but you know when you got that magpie effect.
Yeah.
You know, and you know giggle and you get excited, and you know, and that it looks great first and foremost. You know, yeah, I'd definitely give that a go.
And the fact that it's pre-tuned is good, because obviously, you know, calf skins can be quite notoriously, you know, atmospherically sensitive. So that's fantastic.
Yeah, that is an issue with it, to be honest.
I would imagine it would
you know,
be,
you put it in your car, drive to your gig, get it out and go, oh, really? That wasn't the same as I put it in the car. Well, I'm sure I tuned that.
It's natural, isn't it?
Yeah. But you've been great guests. Thank you very much for spending time with us.
Thank you, guys.
Not bad, all right?
Yeah, that was good.
And I have to say, I think Steve has already won an award for the sharpest dresser.
Absolutely.
You just didn't even try this time.
I wasn't even going to bother with it. So, I mean, I normally I have gone down the suit and tie. You know, I tried that one, but I knew Steve was coming on. I wasn't going to win.
This is how I dress all the time.
I know you do.
You know, sartorially elegant, doing the garden, the school
all
run.
the time.
Got to look good.
Swimming. Yeah, the whole lot. Well, thank you very much. It's been a great show, and we'll see you all next time. So thank you.
Pleasure.
Thank you.